In this video, I'm going to teach you how to raise organic meat chickens, and stay tuned till the end because I'll also teach you how to raise organic chicks in the brooder and what you can do to avoid herbicides and pesticides overall. And I'll also discuss vaccinations and avoiding other illnesses. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. One of the major perks of raising your chickens for meat is that you have a say in what goes into or doesn't go into raising your organic meat chickens. When you control how you raise your own meat, you can make important decisions about how to care for them, how they will live, and what products you will or won't use in the rearing process. In this video, I'll touch on the basics for raising broilers or meat chickens as organically and ethically as possible. But first, let me answer the question, what is an organic meat chicken? When we hear the word organic, we usually get a good feeling about where the meat or product has come from and the care that has gone into the animal. But the truth is, organic may mean one thing to someone and another to someone else. So I'm going to dispel this because I'm not only going to focus on the USDA's definition of organic, but also that good feeling definition, which focuses on giving your chickens the most natural life possible with all the benefits. So let's get into the USDA definition of organic. USDA certified organic foods are grown and processed according to federal guidelines addressing, among many factors, soil quality, animal raising practices, pest and weed control, and use of additives. Organic producers rely on natural substances and physical, mechanical, or biologically based farming methods to the fullest extent possible. If you plan to label your chickens and then sell them as organic, make sure to do your due diligence to follow the USDA guidelines. Once you've checked all the boxes, there are a few additional things you can do to make sure you are ethically raising organic meat. The first step is making sure you source your eggs for organic meat chickens. If you're organically raising chickens, your job starts once your chicks hatch. It can be difficult to ensure your eggs were laid by organically raised chickens. In truth, the really only way you'll know for sure is if they've come from your own organic chickens. It's a true chicken before the egg conundrum, but when you're first starting, you get a free pass on the eggs if you're incubating from an unknown chicken. If you're ordering broilers, as most will, you'll have to work with what you get. This is due to the difficult process of breeding large meat birds. Certain breeds are considered excellent meat birds that you can raise and breed on your own organically. The second part of this is you want to pick chicken breeds that reproduce easily. Aside from the large heritage breeds like the Jersey Giant or Buff Orpington, the closest you can get to the fast-growing Cornish cross is the Ranger chicken. And while it will not produce eggs as quickly or as frequently as a heritage breed might, you can still get eggs from them. Though birds developed for fast growth and large carcasses reproduce poorly, you can do it. Your best bet for naturally producing meat chickens will be a large heritage breed or a version of the Ranger chicken. Now let's talk about raising organic chicks in the brooder. Raising chicks in a brooder organically consists of three main focuses: cleanliness, space, and feed. Chicks must also be kept warm and receive adequate amounts of fresh water, so there aren't many differences in raising organic chicks versus non-organic. The main difference between raising chicks naturally is your feed choice. Some may argue that feeding chicks medicated feed is not an organic way of raising chickens. However, the finished product has usually expelled all medications from chickhood by processing day. With that being said, if you didn't give your chicks organically labeled feed, you may not be living up to your own standards. The danger in foregoing medicated feeds is the strong possibility of chicks contracting coccidia and dying. Medicated feeds do a fantastic job of preventing coccidiosis during a chick's most fragile days. Typically, meat chickens are moved from starter feed to grower adult feed at about 3 weeks. You can see they will have been on grower feed for quite a while before being processed for consumption. As your chicks grow, you may also want to consider feeding organic scraps and food from your farm. It's important not to become discouraged by a slower growth rate if you feed a natural diet. It's completely normal when raising chickens organically. Now let's talk about moving chickens outside. Once your chicks are old enough to move outdoors, it's time to get them into the grass. If you're raising broilers, give them an ample amount of space. The rules for spatial considerations change often, but as of making this video, the recommended minimum space requirements are at least 1 square foot per 2.25 pounds of chickens. When it comes down to it, that is not a lot of space, and cramming a large flock into that kind of coop will only promote problems like fighting and hygiene issues for the birds. You'll want to give your chickens more than enough space to allow them to spread their wings and act like chickens. Their life should be as close to natural as possible to raise chickens in an organic way. Many organic chicken farmers employ what is known as a chicken tractor. This allows chickens to have safe access to the pasture, bugs, and grit in the natural environment. Chicken tractors are usually built to be light enough to be moved by a single person. Move them daily to keep chickens on fresh, clean grass. Tractors are built to provide birds with protection from the elements and predators. It also allows them access to the outdoors. If you've ever moved a chicken from the indoors to a sunny outdoor coop, you'll quickly see how much they enjoy the sun. Broilers will stretch and lay down while taking in the sun. You'll soon recognize the importance of this type of environment for the happiness of the chicken. Now let's talk about avoiding herbicides and pesticides. But before I do, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also subscribe to our website, thehappychickencoop.com. If you subscribe using the link in the description, you'll receive a free ebook on the 10 best egg-laying chicken breeds. All right, so you move your chickens to the outdoors. Now, ensure that the pasture you'll be placing them on has been free from pesticides and herbicides. Check with the USDA to ensure the appropriate amount of time has passed before placing chickens intended as organic on any pasture. Notice if your property butts up against a neighboring farm that utilizes pesticides and herbicides. If so, make sure you've given enough space between the non-organic property and where you're putting your chickens. The amount of space you'll need will depend on the type of chemical used, the water flowage in the area, and even typical wind drifts. As you can see, there are many variables to consider when keeping your chickens completely organic. Now let's get into vaccinations and avoiding illnesses. Most chicks are vaccinated at 1 or 2 days old for typical diseases such as Marek's disease, Newcastle, and other common illnesses. Now, always check with the USDA to ensure the vaccination you are planning to use with your flock is approved for organic farms and labels. That being said, other medications are prohibited by the USDA unless the animal is sick. It is considered unethical to withhold treatment from a sick animal to maintain its organic status, though. Therefore, strong and organized care practices, careful animal selection, and monitoring are the best defenses against spreading diseases. You'll need a cleaning schedule, a rotational grazing plan, and a strong understanding of common illnesses and parasites. You will need to combat them as naturally as possible as soon as possible. Now, let's get into the ethics to consider when you're raising organic meat chickens. These are just some of the more obvious things to avoid for an organic operation. There are also ethical situations and practices to consider when planning your flock's care. The first consideration, debeaking. Beak trimming is going to be an absolute non-negotiable issue. It is inhumane to trim or remove a beak from a chicken, even if it prevents pecking. First off, chickens use their beaks to eat, preen, protect themselves, and communicate with each other. It would be rude to remove their ability to do the things they do naturally. Give chickens enough fresh air, space, food, and water. Then there's little reason for them to peck at one another. This is the main reason large operations debeak their chickens. The second part, space considerations. Give chickens as much space as possible to prevent unsanitary conditions. This also helps with pecking order issues and gives them exercise. They need this to maintain a healthy yet desirable weight. So for wrapping up, in nature, chickens love to scratch for goodies. They enjoy flapping their wings, taking dust baths, and sunbathing in the fresh air. Unfortunately, there's a sad truth about organically labeled meat available in stores. It doesn't always come from birds with the luxury of living a natural lifestyle. While some of these things are not necessary to be labeled as organic, we believe they are just as important as everything else on this list. Treating our chickens with respect, this allows us to appreciate the life they've given for us to nourish our bodies. For a full guideline on USDA accepted practices for raising organic poultry, check out these guidelines that I'll link to here in the description. That's going to do it for us here at the Happy Chicken Coop. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy our content, if you learned something new, like the video, subscribe. And with that, I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.